All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Not Another Whiskey Podcast. We're doing a 30 minutes with, and we're delighted to have Miika Lipianinen, who is the CEO of Kyro Whisky. Now, Miika, did I pronounce everything right there? Because I've been practicing that all week, man.
I don't want to let you down then. It was great. It was great.
All right. It's definitely code for it. You absolutely fucked that up, Mitch.
That was Finnish diplomacy right there, Mitch.
Helsinki Accords, we're known for it.
but it is like, it is Kyro Whisky, right? I mean, you spell it differently, and I know a lot of people over here say Kyro Whisky.
Yeah, but it is. You're right. It's Kyro. It's almost like got a Japanese pronunciation to it. Kyro, like with the very particular Y and the O with dots, the So yeah, it's pretty exotic, but it's easy enough that you can still get it out, like pronounced out, even if it's not right. It's fine.
Perfect. Oh, yeah, we got that. So Kyro Whisky. So Miika, it's great to have you on the show, man. We're always really excited on the show to talk about world whiskies as opposed to just Scotch all the time. So far we've chatted about, let me think here, we've chatted about Australian whiskey, Indian whiskey, Welsh, even whiskey from the Czech Republic, but never Finland. So this is exciting for us, man.
Yeah, it's exciting for us too. I mean, we've been a meat, potatoes, and vodka people for a long time, so now we're changing it. And whiskey from Finland, especially rye whiskey, is going to be a thing.
Absolutely. Look, before we get into talking about Kyro, I think it would be interesting for our listener to learn. And I say, Mitch, it's always listener. I think you're a bit ambitious when we talk about listeners. But so for our listener, would love to learn a little bit about Finnish drinking traditions. I've actually spent time in Finland, and I can tell you that for myself and for other people in the whiskey business who've been to Finland, it often means flying in or traveling into Finland and then getting on a boat or a ferry, going out into international waters and drinking until you can't see. So is that the norm, or was that just my experience?
Well, it's still there. I mean, the ferry traffic, the ferries going out of Helsinki, or as we call them, the floating moral vacuums, are a part of the Finnish tradition of both going out for a weekend or a family trip or a stag do or whatever. And unfortunately, these like sometimes overlap quite badly. And then the big component there is as well buying spirits and buying even beer and long drink, which is our national RTD. So buying those for your home, because when it goes out to international waters and stays there for 23 hours, you can buy tax-free, and our alcohol taxes being very high, it's been a popular channel where you go and get wasted and buy spirits for your home. But I don't think it's going anywhere, especially with our taxes just going up and up. But I think the culture there is changing as well, with like fancy wine bars popping up on the boats and some really high class whiskey festivals there as well, where you'd find us too. So yep. It's a part of something old and something new as well.
Yeah, I think it was a whiskey festival that I was actually out at, so I'm probably doing it a disservice, but it was a massive selling opportunity. I think that the opportunity to get in front of like really geeky, really like nerdy whiskey people, which was amazing. Like the people are fantastic, and I think that whole region, the Scandinavian region, is just the people that really make the region. And I think that that's something that we were looking at your commercial and the amazing things that you've done online, which I would highly recommend that people go and check out on YouTube. But you start in a sauna, and there is something called Finnish sauna diplomacy. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but the Finnish embassies are building saunas inside every single one of their embassies. And when world leaders come to visit, they strip them down, put them in a towel, and go talk shop. Is that something that's helped you guys when you're putting your whiskeys and your gin together?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the sauna is kind of a magical place, and at the same time, the most mundane place you can have for a Finn. But I think for us, I mean, for instance, our company was kind of founded in a sauna. So we were drinking some Rittenhouse rye at very high temperatures, which is not the maybe ideal temperature to drink your US style rye. But we got really enthused about the fact that, you know, this is rye whiskey, and you know, Finns, we eat a lot of rye, and nobody's thought of putting these two together before in Finland, and let's go out and do it. But the backdrop to all of this is the sauna, where, as you said, we all kind of strip down, and you know, you're there. It's a very kind of like equal, it's very easygoing setting, and even Finnish people get into talking about their feelings and asking about other people's feelings in a sauna, which they wouldn't do elsewhere, because we don't have a pop culture per se. So you don't meet your friends for after work, you meet your friends in a sauna.
Miika, let's talk about your background and you know, the people that you talked about in the sauna there. Are you guys all from the drinks industry originally, or is this like first time for you guys? What's the story there?
Absolutely first time. So drinks industry is not a big industry in Finland. It used to be all government. So government made, imported, distributed, and retailed all spirits in Finland. Nowadays, they still do the retailing, so there's a government monopoly, but behind that there's now a more multitude of producers like us. And for us five who started Kyro Distillery, we just came from all walks of life. So I was in pharmaceuticals, Mikko was in media startups, Mikko was in ship engine building, Joni in project logistics, and Kalle grew algae for a living for Helsinki University. So absolutely no background in the drinks industry, just a strong feeling that, you know, that the world needs a Finnish rye distillery.
Fantastic. So then talk us through how that was all put together. I mean, I know you guys have gin. I'm assuming the gin aspect of it was the first thing that came along, but the whiskey was the main focus for you guys and the goal at the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started out, the whiskey was kind of the initial idea, but we quickly figured out, obviously, that whiskey takes time to mature, since for us, being from a new region and making a very new kind of brand, we didn't want to buy anybody else's liquid and slap a label on it. So we figured, like, let's start building from the scratch and let's start making all our liquids ourselves. And it's a long process. So we got to thinking, what else can we apply Finnish rye into? So, okay, we can make it into a clear spirit, but what do we do with it? Vodka wasn't really interesting at that point. So we figured that let's combine it with our national pastime, which is applying our jokamiehen oikeus, which means it's literally translated every man's rights. And it means you can go and pick berries and mushrooms and anything that grows wild from anybody's lot, whether it's your land, my land, government land. So we went out and picked everything that we could, started macerating them, started distilling different botanicals and berries, and came up with a recipe that was really, really good for a gin. And so gin it was, and that really got us going in 2014-15 when we started.
Wow. So the agricultural aspect of what you guys do is really important. Is that the same for the rye? Like, what is the process for the grains that you're using and the mash bills that you're putting together for your whiskey?
Yeah, the rye is the thing. And when we were tasting sort of the best ryes out there in the marketplace when we started, you know, there's some fantastic liquids there. Thomas H. Handy for me will always be the rye that really got me into rye. But for us, we wanted our whiskeys taste like Finnish people understand what rye tastes like. And it's not that sort of hot, spicy, peppery character of US rye. It's not that very sweet kind of, obviously a bit wine enhanced style that they do in Canada. So for us, it had to be about rye, and that filtered down to all the decision making in designing the process. So we don't filter, we don't lauter, we don't separate anything from the rye. All the solids go into the stills. We ferment for a long time to really bring everything out that the rye can give us. And the local rye that we use is small, so small grain, where we have only like 14 weeks of growing season, but so laden with sunlight. So we get 22 hours of sun where we are at the distillery. so you get a lot of flavor packing in the outer surface of the rye. So all of these decisions came out of the kind of the, I don't call it terroir. I don't necessarily agree with using the word terroir in whiskey, but it's really sort of faithful to our macroclimate and the raw material we're working with.
I think, going back, Nicholas, you mentioned this earlier on, the advert that you guys did. I think it was brutally Finnish with, just the starts in the sauna. And I love that you just mentioned on it there, talking about your summer. I think you said in that advert, like, oh yes, and we, put all the distill all the botanicals up and for one day what was it, like in the summer, which is like one day in Finland,
year.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we might get a bit more warmth than that, but it sometimes does feel like it, walking around even something like London, it's going to be so much warmer basically all year long compared to Finland. But it's really the amount of sunlight that really makes the difference, especially in the grain. But then of course you can flip that over, and in the winter you don't see much of the sun at all. So, good time to drink.
What's the vision for the business, like the size and scale that you are now? Are you looking to expand out globally and make the brand kind of available in other markets, or are you really just kind of focusing on Europe and the home markets right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, we're now finally starting to have whiskey to actually sell in the marketplace, whereas before it's been like us telling everybody, it's coming, and here's one bottle you can taste. So right now we're domestically the fastest growing whiskey brand in Finland, and our main export market right now is Germany, but UK is actually coming up quite fast after that. And USA is like, even though we don't really do anything in the US, we just have organized some basic level importing. US is quite a strong growth market. So let's say next year we might be looking at doing a bit more in the US. And we just raised some international expansion capital, closed it last Friday. And hopefully we can use that to really grow the size of the brand quite significantly, but only in a few selected markets rather than like a scattershot thing.
Brilliant. I'm delighted that you said when you closed your capital, you weren't just like, and that allows us to go to Vegas and put it all on black.
Yeah. Double the capital.
Exactly.
Yes, that's
it was all or nothing, guys. You knew the risks. It was all or nothing.
Let's not talk about Vegas, Nick. Remember what happened there last time?
Actually, yeah. Just to fill you in on this joke here, that Mitch proposed to me on Valentine's Day. For some reason, the two of us ended up getting stranded in Las Vegas on Valentine's Day, and Mitch thought it'd be really funny in a packed restaurant to get down on one knee. So the whole restaurant burst into applause thinking that he'd proposed, and they sent over a round of champagne on the house. It's the only time that Mitch would out. It's the only time I've been lost for words.
I actually went right, and what I used, Miika, was like I was working for Glenfiddich at the time, and it was these Glenfiddich cufflinks, but it came in like what looked like a ring box. I actually just popped that open. It's the only time I've ever seen him go bright red. It was pretty hilarious.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing, and we've been happily married for 14 years. So that's the twist. I made him see it through.
A proper Vegas wedding. That's excellent.
But yeah, let's get back onto the whiskey here. I want to talk about, you touched a little bit on production there. Can you tell everyone listening sort of where the distillery is, kind of what you guys use equipment wise and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in say Western Finland, quite near the coastline, just facing Sweden, in a town called Iso-Kyrö, hence the Kyrö distillery name. Iso-Kyrö just means big Kyrö. We are very imaginative with the names there. So we started setting up there in 2013 into this fantastic old stone-built dairy built in 1908. And one of our founding partners lives right next to the dairy. And he lured us there from the capital region and said that, this is the best place to start a business. And we believed him. It's a beautiful site. And we've been building there and expanding basically ever since. And if you're ever in Finland, by the way, you should absolutely visit. We do get a good number of visitors per year nowadays. And mid-August, we have our distillery festival. So it's beautiful. Okay, about the production itself. So we kind of respectfully borrow from a lot of distilling cultures out there. So we use 100% rye mash bill for everything, and we've got some smoky mash bills and some non-smoked, but they're all 100% malted. So essentially, what we produce is single malt rye, though we can't call it single malt because SWA and all of that. But it's an 100% malted rye whiskey, and we produce it so that first of all we hammer mill it, then we mash it. Then we've got a very, very long fermentation where we get a nice secondary fermentation in, so about 144 hours. And it really generates those rye flavors and adds to the sweeter, darker, earthier tones of the mash. And then we push it into our pot stills. So we've got a setup of a 9,000 liter plus a 7,000 liter copper pot still. So that's a bit more than on the Scottish side of how to do things. And we double distill it, and then we get the liquid out. We barrel nowadays at about 55% to between 55 and 58% ABV on average for optimal maturation for the rye. And then we take it and store it locally. So there's elements of US distilling, Scottish distilling, and even some like Canadian distilling vibes where we've got the core mash bills that are very solid and very set. And then we store it in ex-bourbon and new American oak barrels. And then we have like special casks from here and there, anything from port to Vin Santo and from rum to some South American wood, which we're trialing out.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. That's big still. That's surprising. I was shocked when you said the size of the stills there. That's not a small operation.
Yeah, we're not kidding around. I mean, you know, like, I don't know what the word means anymore, but if we consider ourselves like European craft distilling and European craft distilling operation, in that metric, we're actually quite big. When you compare to small distilleries in the US, of course, we're very, very small. But all things considered, we've got about 1.2, 1.3 million liters of whiskey in stock now. So we really aim to change the landscape of rye whiskey and European whiskey out there.
And Miika, how much are you producing every year then?
So right now with current setup, it would be about 320,000 LPA a year.
I mean, you mentioned all the different casks there. I'm assuming you guys are gonna start finishing with a little bit of sort of experimenting with some finishing. Is that in the pipeline anytime soon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mitch is biting his tongue not to get that pun over there, you know.
Yes, we're quite finished. So for us, obviously, again, it's a new region, new kind of mash bill, new process. So we almost feel obliged to try a lot of things out. But the core recipes is really solid, and our core units are Kyro malt whiskey, Kyro malt rye, our wood smoke, and our upcoming peat smoke, which is done with Finnish freshwater peat. They're going to be really stable. But in addition to that, we've released a number of Kyro's Choice bottlings, which are always finished in some exotic casks. So you still, from the UK, for instance, you can get a Monbasiak finished Kyro rye malt through Speciality, i.e. the Whiskey Exchange. But we have those coming out 1 to 2 every year at least.
And when we talk about Finnish whiskies, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you're only one of 2 distilleries right now that are doing whiskey in Finland. Is that correct, or is there more now?
There's more. I think we are now 5 active distilleries distilling at least a bit of whiskey. So I would say only 4 that are predominantly distilling whiskey.
And is there a way for you guys to work collaboratively together on anything? Obviously, in Scotland, a lot of distilleries buy, sell, trade, and blend. Obviously, you know, you spoke very, very much about making sure that you're producing all your own liquid on site. But is there a blending opportunity to create yet another avenue of Finnish whiskies that we can all look forward to?
that's a good question, and I think give it 2-3 years more when all of us have a bit more aged stock.
Yeah.
I think there's a real opportunity there. Obviously, we're trying to encourage everybody to make rye whiskey because we really feel that, Finns being so into rye and rye being a great grain for our soil and all of that. So it'd be great if we became known as the area where you make really massive flavor profiled rye whiskeys. So we'll see what happens, but there's at least a couple of us making rye right now. So hopefully we can even start blending some rye in the future.
And what about rules and regulations for Finnish whiskey? Is there anything in place at the moment, or is that coming? Or
there's not so much like an attempt right now to get like a GI, like a geographic indicator or anything like that. So we just follow the general rules in the EU that govern the whiskey as a category. And it's a bit of a balancing act, obviously, with rye, for instance, and then having malted rye, which we'd kind of like to call it single malt, but since we can't, then we just have to find our own way. We thought about, like, do we call it pure malt or something like in the Scottish Japanese tradition, but no, it's for us it's just malt rye. And otherwise we go with the same as everybody else, like minimum 3 years, maximum 700-liter cask, can't add anything post distillation process except coloring and water and all of that.
So Miika, for people that want to go out and find Kyro, I know a lot of our listeners are in the UK, a lot of them are in the US as well. Where's the best place they can do that?
So always, like, actually for both countries, the most certain bet is to go to our website and buy directly. We sell, I think, to 40 states through our partners in the US right now. And UK wide, you can get us quite easily. But in addition to that, you'll find us in the usual suspects like Master of Malt and the Whiskey Exchange in the UK, and even a bit on Amazon, and then on the luxury side like hedonism and whatnot. But so hopefully you'll find us more in bars and restaurants as well this year, when we're putting a bit more footwork behind the whiskeys. But yeah, as I said, we still don't have that much to sell. So slowly and surely the stock is maturing and we'll have more. But yeah, you should see us in a bigger way, especially in the UK.
Is it a signature drink or cocktail that you'd recommend us make with your rye?
Yeah, for me, I just can't get over the old-fashioned application of the malt. So from the malt, I'd always make an old-fashioned, and from the wood smoke, a whiskey sour, because like the acidity works really well with the kind of smoke we have in it. Now, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but in our wood smoke rye, you don't see a lot of smoked rye whiskeys out there. But there's this process in Finland where we dry our rye out for the winter by burning a bonfire of alder wood. So you don't get that heavy, turfy peat smoke. You get that minerally light, delicate alder wood smoke into the whiskey. So just on sipping on its own or making a whiskey sour, it's a beautiful drink.
Very cool.
And then how would you describe your sort of house distillation style to people?
So the core of the spirit, first of all, we decided that whenever you taste the Kyro rye whiskey, you should always be able to identify that this is a Kyro whiskey, right? So it's a bit of I would say it's a longer journey for us out there, where we need to just have it be tasted by people. So like going out there and have people taste it and get used to a new style of making whiskey. But for us, it has to combine those components of this real earthiness and those darker sort of spices, combined with sweetness that comes through the raw material and the long fermentation process we have, and then top that off with the cask elements, where we get both New American Oak and ex-bourbon contributing quite a bit to the taste. So for us, the house distillation style, somewhat spicy, earthy, and sweet. But as I said, rye for Finns is such a particular taste that for people who haven't grown up with the rye bread and rye porridge like we do, it just has to be experienced in the end. So we can use traditional taste descriptors, and we do for it. But yeah, just go out and taste it.
Yeah, it's interesting you said earthy. That's definitely what I got from it when I tried it first off. And it was almost like a malty beer nose to it as well. That was quite interesting for me. But yeah, fantastic liquid, man. Congratulations on everything. It's great to see you guys doing so well and really pushing the product globally, you know. So I suppose one last thing is, where can people find, what's the website, what's the social media handles? Let's do a shameless plug for you right now.
Yeah, thank you. We love a shameless plug, especially since in Finland, the alcohol law starts with the words, you cannot market hard liquor. So we'll take plugs wherever we can. So www.kyrodistillery.com. Just go to the .com. It'll guide you to the right place, whether you live in the US or the UK. And at KYRO Distillery in Instagram, Facebook, and most other socials, you'll find us there. We're quite active in discussing things, responding to things. So please come and engage with us. And like I said, it's always great to come up to Finland, see a bit of the capital region, or go to Lapland, but then Kyro Distillery all the way, and come and have a great dinner and a whiskey tour at the distillery.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. And again, folks, make sure you go to YouTube, check out Kyro's commercial to walk through how these guys do it. You'll be able to see Miika walking through the forests of Finland with nothing but a sprig of rye to cover his whiskey paraphernalia. And it's a great watch and a great gig. So thanks very much. Your marketing team did a wonderful job on that, and whoever wrote it is got a great sense of humor. So well done. Congratulations on your whiskey, and thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thanks for having me. Awesome to talk to you.